Hey everyone, it's Kirsten. Welcome to Season 3 of The Anthropocene. The scene is set. Everything is pitch black, as it always has been. But it's warm and it's cozy. You're snug and comfortable, but something feels different about today. You've been sleepy and tucked away since forever, but now something inside you says it's time to go. You wiggle and squirm and begin to chew away at the walls that make up all you have ever known. You chew and wiggle, and soon a bright light at the end of the tunnel leads you towards it. You poke your head outside, overwhelmed by light, scents, colors, movement. You crawl outside your tube and find yourself on a wall full of other tubes, just like the one you came out of. You pause, taking in the world around you for just a moment. Then, with great hunger, you find yourself drawn towards a bright garden full of bright flowers bursting with pollen and nectar. You take flight, buzzing away from your winter home, off into fresh spring air. Hello, my beautiful nerds. I am so excited to be here. I'm going to just start right away by letting you know that Nicholas could not be here today, and that is sad. However, I am very excited to let you know that we have a special guest today, Sabrina Moore. Some of you may know her from the super awesome S'morebugs account on Instagram. If you do not follow her, get on that right now. It's going to be down in the show notes. Make sure you do. Now, just before I get Sabrina to introduce herself, I thought after our recent episode on the worldwide invertebrate collapse, that maybe we could do a small episode on how you can help on a small personal scale, because I know that was heavy, it was sad, it was depressing. So I invited Sabrina here to join us to chat about insect, and she also let me know bee hotels, which there's a difference. Spoiler alert, we're going to get to that. We're going to talk the good, the bad, the ugly, and most importantly, a little bit of the to-do and what not to do for a good insect hotel. So Sabrina, take it away. Introduce yourself for us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on this podcast. And you picked the perfect topic for me. I love talking about native insects. So really excited about this topic. S'morebugs. Definitely, I try to go the positive route with my insect stories, having people see, oh, what is that tiny insect, and give them a little tidbit about it. So I'm excited to talk about native bees. They're my favorite.
Great. Perfect. And can you just give a little bit of context about what you do, who you are, just so people can get to know you a little bit more? You can pick whatever part of you want to talk about. But.
Okay. Yeah. So right now I am finishing my PhD in biology. So I would describe myself as an aquatic ecologist, technically. I study insects in the aquatic ecosystem. And so I'm right now in North Texas area, and S'morebugs, that's like a new thing for me in the last couple of years. Getting into writing and taking pictures of insects has kind of become a obsession now. I even had to get expandable storage in my cell phone so I can have, enough room for all the pictures and videos I've been taking.
Amazing. Yeah, cool. Very cool. I love aquatic ecology. I think it's so neat because everything in the water, you don't see it. You can't touch it until you get it down, and you net stuff and you bring it up and you just see these super weird, cool things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. Trichoptera larvae are my favorite. I don't know if you can see my drawing on the wall back there. He's right there.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh.
Oh, they're my favorites. Yeah. That's cool. I didn't know you were doing aquatic biology, and that's super exciting. Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So let's just dive into it and talk about the insect/bee hotels. Also, so you said you're in northern Texas, right? Yeah, so let's get a little bit of context, because I think something that's difficult having a podcast where we're trying to reach worldwide is when you talk about native flora and fauna, it's literally different everywhere. So what are some of the native critters? We can focus mostly on bees today, but that you can find out there.
Yeah, so North Texas is a huge state, but in the North Texas area, we're kind of more central in the United States. And so historically, we had a lot of tall grass prairies, a lot of diversity of grasses, as well as where I am, there's a lot of oak trees as well, like across timbers ecoregion. And so with all of those grasses and habitat, it supports a lot of diversity of insects. It's pretty hot here, so it's pretty buggy. And I would say like insects like harvester ants, those are my most favorite when I first moved here. They're collecting those seed heads from the grasses and burying those down the ground. And then they're supporting the horny toad frogs that we're known for here as well. We have high diversity of moths. A lot of those are associated with oak trees. And of course, we have a high diversity of bees. We have 800 species of bees. I think it's amazing. That was like one of the most exciting things to me when I first moved here. I moved here because I got married and I didn't know the area very well. So I'm a pretty social person. I started volunteering in prairie restoration sites that have like remnants of this little prairie. And we were like planting wildflowers. And that's when I started noticing, wow, there's a lot of different diversity of bees associated with these wildflowers. And most of those are the solitary bees. Not like the honeybees or the bumblebees that we think of, the social bees.
Right. Yeah, that's so cool. 800 is a lot. We did one little episode on honeybees to try to let people know how diverse bees actually are, but putting the numbers on it is so helpful.
I know. Yeah. Over Earth Week, I put like a whiteboard out in my front yard, which is a native prairie habitat out there that I've kind of cultivated. And then I put a little sign, free sunflowers. And then I had, did you know there's 800 species of bees in Texas? I don't know what my neighbors are necessarily thinking about me now, but they all picked up the sunflowers, so they learned something.
I'm sure they think you're extra cool now. That's the only thing I can think of. I'm sure they love it. That's great. Well, cool. So, I mean, we have this amazing diversity of native invertebrates that you want to help protect there, and I think the focus is for you is these solitary bees. And so this is when we come around to building the bee hotels. So this is a great time. Can you tell us what an insect hotel and a bee hotel is?
Yeah. So they're similar, but there's some distinct differences. Insect hotels, I would describe those as a lot of different nesting materials. And I've seen some really cool ones where they have like pine cones and hay and I don't know, different kind of messy environment to mimic nature, if you will. And then that attracts in, people are trying to attract in beneficial like ladybugs and different types of larvae there, you know, because in urban environments, it's pretty clean. And so it builds like a beautiful but messy environment in a little house. And so I've seen those installed in like urban parks and things like that. I don't have any insect hotels because basically my garden is an insect hotel. It's very messy. And the difference between insect hotels and bee hotels is bee hotels are going to be specifically tubes or natural reeds and things like that that are only supporting tube nesting bees. So the solitary bees, you have mason bees, leafcutter bees in our area. There's resin bees, and then we also get mason wasps. But those are in that hotel. So it's better just to have that as two separate. If you want both, that's awesome. But make sure your bee hotel doesn't have all the messy materials and attracting in other, insects. You want it to have just the tubes for the bees.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that totally makes sense because I've definitely seen both, but never thought to properly like distinguish them before. So
sometimes they're like together.
Yeah. Okay.
And so you can have both, but it's better to have a bee hotel that's just specifically set up with the tubes. And we'll get into that, I think, in detail today.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. So why are bee hotels good and why did you start making them? What's the big deal?
So we'll also get into why they're bad. But basically, I got into it when I started seeing all these really cool bees and I found out, they are actually nesting by themselves. They're non-aggressive in these tubes and you can just build a little habitat. And I made one on my front porch. And that was 6 years ago now. I've learned a lot of what not to do for sure. But these are habitats for these solitary bees that are not aggressive, and they always are nesting. In nature, they're nesting in like hollowed out, either like insect bored holes in logs or stems in sunflowers. And that's not really that prevalent anymore in my area. I would say people are really into, especially in North Texas and Dallas, they're actually getting into AstroTurf, but like lawns, clean lawns. So there's nothing that has, good habitat for these bees. So that's why these bee hotels are really great, is they're a habitat for those native bees to come in and lay their eggs and for the next year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the whole clean lawn thing is totally a problem. We did do one episode on lawns, and I don't know, the AstroTurf thing is a whole nother. I don't know if you follow shit lawns on Twitter, and it's just them shitting all over people with AstroTurf lawns.
Oh my gosh,
great.
Definitely following that now.
Yes, go check it out. We'll link that down below too. I have a really funny experience here in Ecuador because people come around and you'll pay them to like cut your grass, and I do cut like part of it, but I leave these big 2 chunks and this one part around the tree just like completely overgrown. So, when we first moved into this house and I let it get like that, they were ringing my bell like 3 times a day. And like, hey, you need your grass cut. Hey, you need your grass cut. And finally they leave me alone now. But
okay, yeah. I feel like we're the same. I'm like, it's too complicated to have someone hired to mow our lawn because there's a lot of wildflowers right there. We're mowing around those.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so that's great. So essentially we're helping to facilitate a habitat or elements of a habitat that don't exist anymore by making these bee hotels. Now, this really important part is, what are some of the dangers? Because I've seen a couple things here and there with why they're bad. And I think a lot of people have this misconception then. It's like, oh, I read this one thing that it kills them, so now I'm not going to do any. And it's scary. You don't want to like make something worse. So let's talk about what the possible dangers are there.
Okay. So I guess first, I was like, can we talk about the life cycle of the solitary bee so we can like really love it and then realize, okay, we want to make the best bee hotel ever, because this mother bee that you just described at the beginning of the podcast works really hard because she's solitary. Unlike honeybees, she has to be the queen. She has to be the worker. She literally has to go find the pollen. She has to then go bring it back to her tube. She's crawling in that tube. She's fertilizing the eggs. And then she has to literally build a little brood cell. And if it's a mason bee we're talking about, then she's collecting mud. Well, she chews up leaves first into like a little cave. And then she kneads it in the ground with sand and mud and creates this like glue out of mud. And that's where the mason bee comes from. And then she'll go in and she will make like a little cell that is going to be perfect for her egg. And then she goes and collects pollen and nectar and creates like a bee loaf is what they call it, because it kind of looks like bread. Lays her egg on that, and then has to then go and seal that off to protect it from any other parasites coming in. Right. So continually does that, and all season, maybe like 5 weeks or so, and then she never gets to meet her offspring. So she's working really hard in these tubes and never gets to meet her offspring. So we don't want to set them up for failure in our bee hotels. And, us humans, we're all excited. We're like, oh my gosh, I got my first bee. I want to build like this huge bee hotel. I'm saying that because I totally did that one time.
Yeah.
Years ago. I was like, I want all the tubes because it's really fun. Make a condo and have all these tubes together. But that's not natural for these native bees. Usually they'd be very spread out. And that actually protects them when they're spread out like that. Because when you have them all together in this hotel, there's possibility of more pest pressure and more like easy pickings for parasitoids. There's a lot of wasps that come to these, and maybe even mites, or there's even some like beetle larvae that might be attracted in. And so when you have all of these together, then they can create an issue. So that's the negatives with a bee hotel for sure. But there's definitely ways to do it right if you want to make an amazing bee hotel. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Aggregating something that normally in nature is a lot more spread out, like you can kind of see the logic there that it has some dangers. So we're saying maybe many smaller bee hotels around are a lot better than one giant condominium.
I
As you
know. Yes,
said.
I felt so bad when I realized that. I just got so excited. My first bee. I hope this happens to
Mhm.
all of y'all after listening to this podcast. You get your first bee in your bee hotel. You're just like hooked. I like go out every morning with my coffee and check. Oh, okay, she's working out here, and they're just
Mhm.
so fun. And like the one I'm talking about, the Mason bee, Osmia, is like a bright blue metallic color, and then she's hairy. When they first
Mhm.
emerge, they're like beautiful white hairs, and then as they're like working really hard to collect all the pollen, they become like covered in yellow pollen dust, and they collect the pollen on their abdomen. So they're just always just like, and they're fast. You can barely
Yeah.
catch them on camera.
Right.
And yeah, they work so hard. Yeah, collecting back and forth, back and forth. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's such a beautiful experience. We're gonna do in the next little while like an urban wildlife sort of episode. So that's like a good teaser for what's coming up too. These experiences that we can have when we kind of restore our yards to be more friendly for nature like that,
Yeah,
right?
awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool. All right, so that's number one, not to do, or the dangers is having a big group of them where you can collect a bunch of extra parasitoids or pests or probably disease, I guess, that are like not necessarily related to like mites and those kind of things. All right. And yeah, so what else should you avoid other than a big, huge, giant hotel?
Yes. I would say the number one thing is you want to have the right dimensions of the hotel, which sounds crazy. I tried to make this as simple as I could in this episode, but the dimensions, like the depth that these tubes are, is very important, as well as size. The diameter of the tube is really important. So 6 inches is going to be the best depth that you want, and that's because the female bee, I'm talking about mason bees still, she I love your intro, by the way, but like when they come out, if it's a female, the first thing that she probably sees is like a male just like pouncing on her. Because that's the male's job. And then she'll like save all the sperm in like a special gland. But anyway, she chooses to use that to fertilize her eggs. And usually the depth, so the further back in the tube, that's going to be the fertilized egg. So that's going to be the female.
Okay.
And then as she goes out and she's at the end of her tube and she's sealing it off, usually that's the one that she won't fertilize. So that would be the haploid, and that would be a male. So the males hatch. This is normal with insects. Males come out first, maybe a week or so. I like to watch them. They just sit like they're just waiting outside of the tube.
So it should have been like, instead of you emerge hungry, you emerge very horny.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, so depth is important, as well as your diameter. So 8 millimeters is like a perfect size, especially if you're trying to get leafcutter bees, Osmia, your mason bees. So my husband's like, you need to say that in inches. So 5/16 inch for us in America. But you can do bigger and smaller tubes size, like diameter, because diversity is always good. And you might attract in another species that is in your yard.
Right.
But then, okay, so that's depth and dimensions. But the other really important thing is going to be materials of the tubes. So avoid plastic.
Yeah.
There's some out there, I've seen them in stores that are plastic. And the issue with that is those bee loafs that I'm talking about, this pollen and nectar, there's some water and moisture. And if it's a natural material, that's going to be better than plastic.
Right.
Too much condensation in plastic. And so those cocoons, they start to mold. So definitely don't buy plastic tubes for your bees to nest in. I don't even know why they would go in there, but I guess maybe they're really desperate. And then other materials, I say the best thing that I found is cardboard tubes. You can buy them more readily, like now. When I first started, it was really hard to find all this stuff online, but nowadays there's so many options.
Right.
But cardboard's really great because it's paper, and then you can get paper inserts in those. reeds, like natural stems that you're cutting to 6 inches is awesome. Bamboo, not awesome, but it's okay. It is a natural material, but the issue with that is it's just, you can't open them. So with the cardboard tubes, if you're getting really hardcore, after the whole season goes through in the wintertime, you can go in and clean out your bee hotel and open up the tubes. And it's easy when they're cardboard or paper inserts. And that way you can make sure each cocoon is nicely cleaned. And then that also helps to reduce any parasites and buildup that could be happening and then you can replace those tubes. Bamboo, it's just harder. You can't open them as easily.
Right.
And then, so no plastic. And then, so I know this is complicated, but placement is important in how you're putting your house. And going back to materials, your house can be any material. It's the tubes that matter because that's where the bees are laying their eggs. The back of the tube needs to be closed, but then the house can be made of anything. I have mine is just a wooden square that looks like a house, but you can get creative and do any shape, glass, tin cans, anything you have laying around, as long as all those tubes are fitting in there really tightly and secure, and they're not going to just like blow away in the wind.
Right.
We have so much wind here in Texas, so I'm using that example. Because when you place your house, you want to make sure that I have it on my front porch, so it's overhang. It's also kind of a conversation starter when people come over. But it also is facing south. And that kind of gets the morning sun for us. And insects need temperatures that are warmer to, get going in the morning. And so that's perfect for them. In Texas, we don't have issues with hot temperatures. Right. So if you can't face it south, that's okay.
But definitely somebody, if you're living like here in Quito or something where it's pretty cold, then you're going to want to make sure you're getting the morning sun on it.
And oh my gosh, Quito is like 10,000 feet elevation.
Right? We're like 9,000, I think. Yeah, because it's almost 3,000 meters. Yeah, so it's like, it's around there. Yeah, it's chilly.
Oh my gosh. But mason bees are still up in that elevation.
Yes.
Okay, and then what else to avoid? I mean, I guess I talked a little bit about cleaning it out. What I try to do is I pick a time, and in where I live, I pick around like February because my bees start coming out in March. And I just clean all the tubes out. And if they're full, I might open them up, but I definitely put in new tubes. So then that's the only time I mess with bee hotel. And then I just leave it. You don't want to be carrying your bee hotel around your yard because there's bees trying to locate their tubes. And they locate that by smell usually. And so you don't want to even be moving the tubes around in your house or messing with it too much. So that's another thing to avoid for sure. And really, I mean, there's some amazing companies out there where you can buy pre-made perfect bee hotels for pretty cheap. And then, I mean, the time investment is like nothing. You just set it up and you can just check on it during the day. I think I covered
that's super
everything.
Cool. Do you have any companies you could recommend for people, at least in the US?
Definitely. So I haven't bought a house from Crown Bees, but they have a really great website. I have watched a lot of their YouTubes too. So they have an amazing resources there. They sell basically everything you would need for mason bees, but I do warn people about buying bee cocoons because they do sell those, but that's like they're Pacific Northwest area. There's definitely native bees in your area, so you don't need to buy the cocoons. Just buy the house, set it up at your house, and just wait and see what happens. You're going to be pretty surprised. If nothing shows up, then maybe you need to plant more native plants or something. Or now you're learning something about your yard too. And then, so that's Crown Bees. They have amazing resources. I'm trying a new hotel this year, so I'm excited. I'll be posting about it on my Instagram. It's called a Beestra. It's from Bee Foster. It's a company in Arkansas, and it's a 100% cardboard house. It comes ready to go with cardboard tubes at different diameters, and you basically just set it up in your yard. And the reason I like it so much is it's 100% compostable. So after you go through a whole year of having your bees using the tubes, you'll obviously take the tubes out, let them hatch, and then you can compost the whole thing. So it helps like you remember, okay, well, it'll fall apart actually after a year. So you'll have to replace it. And so that helps reduce buildup of different types of parasitoids and things like that. And it's made out of paper. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, that's super cool. Something that, you can completely compost. That was the other thing when you're saying don't buy plastic, like for sure, because of the issues with the bees, but also too, like, why do you want to get more plastic when something that's cardboard or paper will be better, right? So,
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, oh my gosh. I just try to think like, imagine if you were like trying to live in a little plastic enclosed space. Ugh,
gross. It's like sweaty and moist.
Yeah, and eating this weird bread. And
It's really, I just love the little.
Yeah, when you harvest them, you can see like, because their frass is like this little curly yellow frass, their poop, and it's made out of the pollen. So you can even see like, I mean, they're enclosed in a little space. So they're just like, that's their life. Like you said, they were living there for basically a year, and then they'll overwinter in that little cocoon as a full adult, just ready to go until the temperature gets right. So it's pretty interesting life cycle. Yeah, that's so cool. If somebody wasn't comfortable doing the harvesting, you would say it's okay to just kind of leave it be and then pick a time of year to like switch out the whole hotel, or how would that work? Yeah, so it's definitely a process to do harvesting, and then you're like getting in there, and you're like, oh my gosh, am I messing up these cocoons? And then sometimes there's larvae, and you're like, who is that? So I would say, and usually the larvae are like bees that are still going through their life cycle. They haven't pupated yet. So I've definitely been pretty nervous sometimes. And so if I see tubes that are full, then you can, I have a friend, she has a bee hotel out in like a more urban apartment complex kind of area. And she'll like take those tubes, and she has like these little mesh bags. She calls them her quarantine bags. And she'll keep them in that. And she won't harvest those. She'll just let those naturally emerge out of that. Okay. But I mean, the key is have a day that you're just going to clean it, because you're going to see all this pollen everywhere, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, is there mites? There is probably in the pollen. And so remove those tubes, clean it. I'm literally just like brushing it out. I'm not getting crazy with cleaning it because I do feel like the smell is important to attract the next round of bees back. Right. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does for sure. Yeah. So essentially, like, you're just going to have to, when the season's over, you take the tubes out and like keep them somewhere, don't roll them around or let them fall or anything. And then they can just hatch out of those after you've cleaned it. Yes. And then you want to put fresh tubes in for the spring.
Yes. And trying not to, just do it all in one go is what I try to do. And I don't have any issues with birds. I don't know. Maybe my bird population's happy with the other insects. But Crown Bees does sell a really awesome like metal mesh that's like this. They came up with a perfect dimension size mesh to stop to allow bees in, but not birds. So you can buy that too. And then, if you're leaving all your tubes out, just somehow make sure you're protecting them a little bit.
Okay, cool. That's so exciting. Yeah. And I mean, anybody who's listening and you want more advice, you want pictures, you want visuals, like go check out the Smorbugs on Instagram. There's tons of great stuff. And I mean, you said this YouTube channel from Crown Bees too, but I mean, I've learned a ton from just looking at the posts that you have there. So, and I don't know if it's okay just to offer you up, but I'm sure if anybody has some like burning questions that they can't figure out, that they could probably reach out to you, even though you're a busy PhD student.
Oh yeah. I mean, if it's about insects, I'll talk to you about that for sure. It does not bother me to answer any. I've ID'd so many insects for people on my Instagram page.
I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, sometimes people ask me too, and I'm like, I can get you to order for sure. But from there, it depends. If it's an ant, maybe. But that's great. Okay, awesome. Is there anything else that I didn't ask that maybe you wanted to add on there? Something important that we didn't talk about?
Yeah, I guess really it's like you were talking about the whole insect apocalypse and the decline of insects. And I mean, why is it important to support native insects in your area? And I guess the biodiversity is important. The more bees and like the more diversity of bees is going to be better, definitely pollination. And I guess people, when they think pollination, they think like agricultural crops, like my tomatoes and whatever's growing in a field. But bees and other insects are pollinating, you know, trees, grasses, all kinds of things. And those seeds and fruits are, yeah, like you said, supporting wildlife, your deer, your quail, all of your other species. And so I don't know, I get super excited when I see a new insect in my yard, and I know that I'm supporting like a whole nother niche here in this habitat. And insects are doing almost everything for us, right? That we can't do. There's so many ecosystem services from them, from decomposition and cleaning the water.
Yeah.
And supporting the food chain. So
exactly.
Yes, please. Yeah. Meet your tiny neighbors is my new saying. I've been known now on my street as the bug girl. Because I'm like, oh, have you seen a monarch caterpillar? So yeah, definitely supporting biodiversity, super important, especially now with the like habitat loss, climate change. This is something that you can do. And if you have a garden, amazing, you're already doing your part. But yeah, keep planting native plants.
Yeah, and it's just like small things we can do, right? And I mean, if you can go ahead and like plant this one type of native flower and then maybe get like a bee house, then maybe they'll help support more different native plants there, and then they'll bring in different bugs, and then it's just gonna be like a positive feedback loop.
Oh yeah. And I'm an ecologist and I still just get blown away by like, oh my gosh, I've never seen this species. It must really like this flower that I planted. So yeah, it's amazing what will come to your yard when you put that habitat in. And there's so many resources out there about that, and the importance of native plants. So it's not even what I study really, but the whole biodiversity is what I study, I guess.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the more biodiverse, the better. And if you're not sure, I mean, sometimes it's super overwhelming. You don't know where to start. But usually if you have like a native plant trust or a horticulture society, or maybe somebody does, just check Instagram and Google, like maybe somebody does consulting in your area, and then they can give you a hand, because it can be overwhelming to figure it out to start with, for sure. Like, I know I'm still in the process right now of trying to like change my yard over, and like haven't got, as much as I talk about it being important, I need to get on it. So, we all have to admit too that sometimes you're busy and sometimes there's a lot going on, but if we can all just do a little bit more, then we can.
Yeah. And even if you live in like an apartment in any type of city, I have friends that have a balcony and they have a bee hotel, and they have like 4 or 5 different species of bees that are utilizing it, and they live in like urban environment. So don't feel like, oh, I don't have a house or a yard. I mean, even a balcony can create this little ecosystem.
Right. That's so cool. Awesome. All right. So I do have one evil bonus question.
Oh gosh.
What is your favorite insect?
Whew, oh gosh. Okay. I kind of like go between 2. Okay. I would say dipterans, so flies. I find them pretty fascinating. Their diversity is insane. Okay. But I would say stratomyids, and that's a fly larva that is like amazing at composting. So, and they're super cool. They have little antennae that go up and then out, kind of divergent. So it's pretty easy to ID. And their larva, like black soldier fly larva, soldier flies is the common name. They can decompose, like you can put in, I think it's like, I don't know exactly how much their body weight they can eat in a day, but they're my favorite, but I don't know. I mean, I really do love the Megalochile, little leafcutter bees that, they literally are cutting leaves or petals out of flowers and flying around with them, and they're another solitary bee. But yeah, I don't know. I love stratomyids. They also live in aquatic systems too. So there's aquatic species of stratomyids, which are really fun to ID too. So
that's cool.
I don't know.
Great. Yeah. I mean, there's so many. It's funny because right now I'm currently hating dipterans because of their insane diversity, because I'm working on this.
Are you doing like adult identification?
No, yeah, and larva, but a lot of times we just get to family because we're like just doing the whole soil ecosystem, and it just gets ridiculous to try any harder. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I am still IDing terrestrial adult flies right now, like 3 years later after collecting them.
Yeah,
so, I know what you're
fun.
About.
It's fun, and it's awful, and it's all the things and everything in between. So great. Well, we hope everybody's listening has been inspired to check out a little bit more how they can do for a bee hotel or an insect hotel or both. Dive into it. Let us know what you think, and if there's any other questions that you have, you can comment like on our Instagram or send a message, and we can see what we can answer for it. And just thanks so much for joining us. That was super fun. I learned a lot, and I'm gonna probably have to make one from scratch here because I doubt I can buy one, but I'm definitely going to try to make myself a bee hotel.
Oh, yay! Okay, I'm excited. Yeah. I can't wait to see what happens with your bee hotel.
Yeah. We'll see what comes around, if there is anything that ends up occupying it here, but yeah, we'll have to see.
I don't know. You'll be surprised.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. Great. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Bye. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end of the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you head to the show notes, check out the links of things I might have mentioned in the show, go follow us on social media, and yes, do @ me. I'd love to hear from you, what you think, if you want to be a guest with me, if you have suggestions for future episodes, that would be great. Other than that, we do have a Patreon link as well below if you're feeling like helping support the show, and I can't wait to see you around for next episode. Thanks, bye.